Hi, and welcome to the Lensrentals podcast, where we talk about images and the people who make them. I'm Roger Cicala, the founder of Lensrentals.com. Hi, I'm Roger Cicala. This is the Lensrentals podcast. We've got a cool guest now. Kris Steward is our 3D printing expert here. I know absolutely nothing about 3D printing. What I know is way back in the day when we all worked together, we talked about it a lot, and we were like, we could 3D print this and we could 3D print that. And we tried, and well, we 3D printed nothing. But Kris has spent a couple of years, and now, while I don't keep up with it as much because I'm in another building, when I walk over there, I'm constantly picking something up and go, what is this? And I hear, well, Kris 3D printed these for that. And it's always cool. So I'm excited to learn about it. So Kris, what got you into this at first?
Kickstarter. There was a Kickstarter back in 2012 for a little 3D printer when all that was going down. It was around like 2010 when the patents expired on the old straight assist printers and their FDM process. That all these companies started coming out with their own 3D printers. I saw one on Kickstarter. I bought it. I didn't get it for 2 years. Literally.
Kickstarter.
Oh, yeah. Didn't get it for 2 years. When it did come, the company folded 6 months after it arrived.
Again, because Kickstarter.
Yeah. It was my first and only experience with Kickstarter. I learned my lesson. Since then, I've just sat back and watched and enjoyed the show.
Yeah.
But the company folded a few months after I got it. It was junk, but it did get me interested in the process. And then since then, I've owned 11 or 12, and I built some of those. Some of them were retail, and now we have several here that we use.
You have a room full of 3D printers now. I walked by and saw.
Yeah. We have a whole setup. We started doing it here about a year and a half ago. I had brought in some things that I was working on in my own time, and they went over well. So we got into it, started with just one machine. Now we have several. We got a room going. And we currently have, I think, 67 unique kinds of things that we make for our products here.
Tell me about some of them.
Sure. Started simple stuff like gaskets that we couldn't get from anybody else, or things like that. Things for products that we couldn't source for repair purposes. They weren't like structurally important, not a like major thing that's crucial to this product, but something that's good to have. Mm-hmm. And we would make those so that we could continue renting the product in a state similar to the way you would buy it, since the companies themselves couldn't provide that for us. Anything
where you've made a product that's better than what the company provides?
Well, I think that's up to the customers, but I'm pretty proud of some things that we made.
I've heard other people talk about, we make this because it's better. So tell me about some things you think are better.
Well, one thing that I was pretty proud of was the Anton Bauer plate for the Vagabond Mini. The Vagabond Mini has a lithium battery that's too large for us to ship, according to law. So we made a adapter for the Vagabond Mini that would take a Anton Bauer battery instead, and those we can ship just fine. Okay. And I don't think it rents particularly well, but I am proud of it. It works, and I still think it's a good idea.
Sometimes great stuff doesn't rent particularly well. That's not the end-all, be-all of doing something good.
No, I've seen a lot of that, not just 3D printing, but everything. Right. The products that we like, that we think are very interesting and well-made, don't always do well. And there's plenty of stuff that we hate that people love. So,
exactly. Yeah. There's several products that I'm convinced we stock a few copies just because the people here love it, and it's never rented in all of history, it seems like. But it's interesting how that works out. Okay, so are you using more than one type of printer now, or just one?
Currently, we're using two different kinds. We have some Prusa Mark III S's and some Prusa Mark III S's with the MMU2S upgrade. It lets you do multiple materials.
Okay. So what kind of materials can the two different printers print?
They can both do just anything, but the main difference is the original MK3S is a single material printer, just one at a time.
Okay.
And the MMU2S lets you do up to 5 swapping out during a single print. But in terms of the kinds of materials that we use mostly PETG. It's a pretty structurally sound, easily printable thing.
What is PETG?
It is a polyethylene.
Some chemical.
Yeah, I can't remember what the G is for.
But what are the good things about using that?
The most important thing for us is that it has a high melt point or glass transition temperature, because plastic doesn't exactly work that way. But its temperature is high enough so that we can ship it in boxes that we know are going to be subject to extreme heat in the back of trucks and stuff like that.
Like anything we ship.
Yeah, and they won't deform. Because there's a lot of plastics that you can print with these printers that if you leave them on the dash of your car or something like that, it melts.
Right.
Yeah.
That would be bad.
Right. So the PETG is good for that. That's the primary thing we use it for, is that glass transition temperature that's so high.
Now, things that you're making, I walked by and I saw a huge stack of blue discs, and I thought they were cool. And I think they were filter cases.
Yeah, we haven't done filter cases yet. We like modified some filter cases a little bit. I think what you saw were memory card cases.
Okay.
We've had trouble with people losing memory cards.
That's easy enough to do, yeah.
Right. Yeah, they're so small, and in some of these orders have multiple boxes. And we don't even send them bare. It's not like we're just throwing an SD card into a case. We'll put them in a plastic bag or something. We've tried different sizes of plastic bags. We've tried stickers on them. Still, people seem to misplace them. They either forget to, or they can't find them when they get the order. They forget to put them back in the box when they return it. And nothing malicious here. It's like longtime customers. And they've been through this before. It's not their first rodeo, and still they can't find the cards.
Right.
So we came up with an idea for sending all memory cards in cases. And it wasn't particularly cost effective to do that, since we've got, I think tens of thousands of memory cards.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah. So we thought we'd 3D print cases, because we can do that all day. I think currently with the design we're going with, they cost about 40 cents each. And they can hold 2 cards. The SD ones can hold 4 cards.
Okay.
And
they're pretty good size, so you're not going to misplace it.
Yeah.
3 or 4 inches across.
Most importantly, yeah, they're bright.
Yeah, bright blue.
They're bright. We're clipping them to the cases so that the customer can't misplace them. They're always in the same place. And they're bright, not easy to lose. I think it's going to work out well, but we haven't really got far enough along to determine if that's the case.
Okay. Anything else that you custom made that didn't exist?
Oh, yeah, probably a bunch of stuff.
I know truck balls.
For an LR Christmas party, we made some truck nuts with the Lensrentals logo on them.
It was the most popular Dirty Santa Christmas gift of all time.
Sure. Well, it was just a long time office joke. Whenever we're getting swag and merchandising to give people at booths and stuff, everyone would throw out the joke, "We should get truck nuts." Blah, 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 blah. And it was fun to actually do it. They look good.
The rest of the story is, at one point during the Dirty Santa celebration, I had possession of the truck nuts and thought it was over and left. And got called from my car to bring them back because somebody else had taken them after I'd gone. What about camera parts? I know way back in the day, I was always going, can't we make battery doors? Because battery doors they're bizarrely expensive for what they are. And then we had one company, I think it was Nikon, that if the battery door was lost, which happened when people used a grip, we had to send the camera in for a $150 repair fee to get the battery door replaced. That was always a big thing with me. Any luck on battery doors yet?
No. We try to be unobtrusive with the stuff that we make, because we do know that people like to rent our things, not just for functionality, but also as like a try before you buy thing. Right. They want to have the experience of using the product, and we want to keep it as similar as possible to the way they would have received it new. So something like a battery door, we try to avoid doing something that's that in your face. At the same time, we do try to fix functionality when we can, like if there is a serious problem. In the case of battery doors, about 6 months ago, we had a problem with the new pocket camera from Blackmagic when it first came out.
A Blackmagic camera with a problem. Who would have thought that could happen?
I know, it was nuts.
Yeah.
It threw us all for a loop. We couldn't believe it. But the battery door was really loose on the first batch they did, and we fixed that. We left the door, but changed the internal mechanism with a 3D printed part we made that was a bit more rigid.
Like a shim kind of thing?
Well, it was the latch that holds the battery door. It was made out of a piece of plastic. There wasn't a spring. They were using the plastic as a spring mechanism.
Okay.
So we just took that design that they had done and just made it a bit beefier, and it held better. Then, fortunately, they fixed it shortly thereafter. So we didn't even have to use it that long, just a month or two. Okay. And then since then, just putting it out there, it has been fixed. There isn't currently a battery door issue with the pocket cameras. If you got one in the last 6 months, it's fine.
Or we will sell you the part for $69.99. No.
3 installments.
That's right. But wait, we'll give you 2. Okay, what's the favorite thing you've made?
Oh.
For us, not at home. I don't want to know about all that.
Favorite thing for Lensrentals that I've made? And probably those little card carriers that we're making now.
I want one. Those are cool.
Yeah. That's the first thing that comes to mind because they have turned out well. And Carolyn is doing a lot of design work on them for like labels and stuff like that too. And what she's done with them is really nice. I think that people are going to really like them.
I love the clip-on part because, like you said, I would clip it to my belt buckle or my camera bag or somewhere and know where my memory cards were, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, we were proud of that. They have a little steel cable on them for quick clipping with a carabiner, and we're including that too.
That's nice. Cool. All right, let's take a quick break, and then we're going to come back, and I'm going to ask you about how people can get into 3D printing and what good starting places are, because I think a lot of people like to do that.
Hi, I'm Joey Miller, Senior Phototech at Lensrentals.com, and this is a spotlight on the Panasonic S1. I've always loved shooting with the Leica SL1, so when Panasonic announced their own L-mount full-frame camera, I was immediately very interested. I really enjoyed what the GH5 and the GH5S can do, but I kind of hate micro four thirds cameras, just in general. I don't really like the sensor size. So when Panasonic said, hey, we're going to make a full-frame camera, that sounded pretty awesome because a lot of the tech in those cameras and the smaller cameras is really great. I just, don't like the smaller sensor. And the S1 has not been disappointing at all. It's a big, beefy camera. So if you're looking for a tiny mirrorless camera, this is not it. But I love bigger cameras. It's kind of what I shoot on all the time anyway. It's just more my style. It fits my hands better. It feels great in the hands. All the buttons are very logically laid out. It's very easy to use, very, very intuitive. And it just feels like a very, very solidly made camera. The EVF is great, nice and clear and bright, easy to focus with. The in-body stabilization is everything you've come to expect from Panasonic in that regard, and it works incredibly well. I can handhold shots way down to like a quarter of a second, which is something I usually can only do with like a leaf shutter. When it comes to autofocus, it's very snappy. Tracking works really, really well. I remember in the Leica SL1, autofocus worked pretty well. It was a little disappointing, a little lacking here and there. I remember taking it out to a skate park, and it kept up okay with the kids skating around. But this S1 blows it away. It's a whole lot better. Obviously, it's a newer camera. It's got a couple of years on the SL1 now, but the improvements are there. And it's really, would I take it out to a high school football game or something? Probably not. But if I did, I wouldn't be afraid I would miss a whole bunch of stuff. I'd probably get most of it. So it's very important to sit down, go through all the settings, see what works best for your style of shooting, and tweak it to the way that you shoot. It's very easy to do that. It's very intuitive. And once you have it dialed in just right, that camera will focus the way you want it every time. And it's perfect. I'm also really excited that, with the advent of a new L series or L mount camera, there's new lens offerings, not only from Panasonic themselves, but also Sigma has jumped in and is offering all of their Art Series lenses in L mount. More lenses is always great. More options are always great. I love those Sigma Art lenses. I like using the Leica L mount lenses on the Panasonic as well. And I really like still being able to use M mount lenses on the same adapter I was using on the Leica on the Panasonic. Again, that EVF makes manually focusing incredibly easy and accurate. I remember first taking out the Noctilux with the old SL1, trying to manually focus with that EVF in a dark bar at 0.95. It was doable. It wasn't great, but it was doable. With the S1, it's a breeze. I can almost track moving subjects that way, with manual focus. And that's just, can I say it? It's a game changer. Not really. It's just really nice. And this has been a spotlight on the Panasonic S1. If you're interested in renting it, there will be a link in the show notes.
Kris, you told us about the printers you're using most of the time now. Are there other printers that you use?
Yeah, actually, we're moving more into using these Make Your Gear M3ID printers.
And what are the advantages of those or disadvantages, or what's different?
It's mostly the mechanical construction of them. They're much more rigid. With the Prussias, as much as we like them, and they are excellent, they tend to drift in calibration a little too much for our taste. And given we keep them running pretty much constantly, day in, day out, and it seems like every month of use, they need a good tear down and lube and mess with them. And it takes a day or so to get them back up. And that's pretty good for a printer, but we'd like to have to do that less. So we got these new machines. They're made in Cleveland. It's all metal construction, high wind rails, really, really strong, rigid stuff. The kind of thing where you grab the smallest part of the printer and try to move it, and the entire printer moves.
Yeah, okay.
That kind of thing. It's just great.
Are there other printers you've used in the past that we've, grown out of, or?
Well, yeah, it was certainly that first one I got. It was called a Makey Box. If you want to Google it, MAKIBOX. And it was awful.
Now, did you move from that straight into the printers we're using now, or was there? Usually with me, I end up having to trash 3 or 4 bad things before I get one that works.
Yeah. No, I went through a bunch of stuff. There's a company called Maker Farm that was doing some Cartesian printers. I went through some Ultimakers from this great company. I think they're Swedish, pretty sure. Those were fantastic. Did a whole bunch of custom builds of different kinds of systems. There's different kinds of linear motion systems that these things use. There's like Cartesian, Core XY, and another one. And I built a few different kinds to try those out and see the strengths and weaknesses of each of them. Delta is the other one.
Now, was there software progression as there was printer progression?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Because when I started, I didn't know anything about modeling or CAD. Just a very little bit. I'd done some light, crappy visual effects work 15 years ago. So I was familiar a little bit with 3D modeling, but I learned when I started doing this stuff that what I think is called direct modeling, which is more like sculpting with your hands and stuff, or using combined primitives from software like 3D Studio Max and Cinema 4D that filmmakers are used to. That kind of stuff is less common for 3D printing purposes, or at least for functional print and part purposes. Like people will do artistic sculptures and designs and things that are really fantastic and fascinating, and they'll use those for that. But for functional things, for making boxes and gears that connect together and all these kinds of things, you really want to use a parametric-based CAD software. And that's just where you can define parameters and then adjust them at any point during the design process.
Okay.
So if you make a box and you put a bunch of features inside of it, and 10 hours later down the design process road, you decide, I needed the inside of that box to actually be a 0.5 millimeter larger. You don't have to adjust lots of little things that you've done. You just go all the way back in your history to when you made that first box, and just dial in, make this a 0.5 millimeter larger, and it does it, and everything ahead of it in the history auto updates.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's phenomenal for functional stuff. I started out with just using a simple free software called Tinkercad. It's kind of a combination of parametric and direct modeling, and it's free and online. It's offered by Autodesk. I think it's tinkercad.com. Then I moved up to eventually, I went through a few other different things, including trying OpenSCAD, which is a open source software that is for coders, actually. It's interesting. I'm not a developer. I dabble in coding a little bit, but I'm not crazy about it. I don't have the mind for it. Mm-hmm. I don't think about things the same way. But if anyone is a coder and likes doing that kind of stuff, I'd highly recommend OpenSCAD because it basically reduces modeling to code.
Okay.
You do the same kind of stuff that you would do for writing a web page, but for designing an object, just giving it parameters and arrays and connecting them to other parameters, all that kind of stuff. But eventually I settled on Fusion 360, and that's what I have liked the most.
That's what you're using now.
That's what I'm using now, yeah.
Okay. So somebody wants to get into 3D printing. Maybe if they were like me, they did some Kickstarter thing and threw it away and never looked again, or maybe they've never tried. What would you start with today if you were just going to start dipping your toe into 3D printing?
I think it depends on what they want to do. If they want a hobby that will encompass a lot of their time and teach them a whole lot about a lot of little different things, then I would recommend a pretty inexpensive printer. Probably one of the ones that they will see recommended if they Google 3D printers. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a million YouTubers who are getting paid to tell them that they should get something from Monoprice, something from Ender, Creality.
What price range are we talking about for those kind of things?
They're
hundreds
like
or thousands?
Hundreds. They're like $200 to $500, somewhere in there usually. And the thing is, you're getting a real project. Like, yes, technically it's a 3D printer. Like, you get something, it has a nozzle that will heat up and it will extrude plastic. Like, this is a 3D printer, but you're going to spend as much or more time working on the printer itself as you do 3D printing.
Okay.
So, and I'm not saying that even as like a real knock against them. I think it can be a really great educational tool. Like I said, you can learn a lot about a million different things by working on something like that and tuning it up and trying to get it to work right. But if they're not interested in that, they just want to 3D print. They just want to design something, hit go,
right,
and then it comes out the other end just fine, and they don't have to mess with it very much.
I want to give all my friends a 3D sculpted bust of my head.
Exactly, yeah. So. If that's what you're interested in and you don't want to mess too much with the printer itself, the Prushas we use are a great way to start. I think it's PRUSA is the company, and they...
Obviously, we're not getting paid to do this promotional announcement.
No.
How much does one of those cost?
Those are like closer to $1,000.
That's still pretty reasonable.
Yeah, well, it's a great place to start. It's not the end-all, be-all. It's just, it's the lowest one that I've tried or know people that have had that...
they can do productive work.
Yeah, it's more like you hit go and it does what it says it's going to do, and it does so more often than not.
Now, they'll need some CAD software.
Mm-hmm.
What would you recommend for startup? You mentioned the Tinker.
Yeah, at this point, where we are now, I'd probably recommend that most people start with Fusion 360. Okay. If this is something you plan to do for a long time, and if you think you're mostly going to do functional working things, like designing stuff that'll fix little problems around your house or for your friends or whatever, then I would definitely recommend using Fusion 360. Because
what's the cost of that software? You know,
well, it's free for a hobbyist.
Is it really?
That's the great thing. It's professional software. We pay for it to use it here because we're sending stuff to customers and things like that. Mm-hmm. But they have a program where if you're not doing that, you just basically send them a little letter or a little email saying so. Making
Christmas gifts and that kind of
thing. Yeah, you're like,
I'm
using this for my family or for hobbies around my house, that kind of stuff. And they give you a license for free.
That's cool.
And then you can just use it and learn it, and then maybe eventually apply it in some professional way someday. But it's really nice to be able to do that, and it's the full software you get.
That's awesome. What kind of material options do people have as far as what they're printing with?
The most popular thing, I think, is PLA. That's polylactic acid, and it's very popular because it's by far the easiest material to print. Not great for a lot of super functional things because it has a very low glass transition temperature.
So it's going to melt on the dashboard.
Yep. It's one of those things where, even if your air conditioning goes out in your house, you can melt stuff. It doesn't have...
It's almost like if you hold it in your hand.
It really, seriously, for small features, like really thin things and whatnot, it doesn't even have to hit 100 degrees to start deforming. But the thing is, it's so easy, though. It prints beautifully, even on the crappiest of printers. It looks great. It has a great surface finish. It's excellent. So a lot of people use it for cosplay and things that like art that they're going to display in their house. Yeah, they'll do it because it prints so easily and so well. And then they just understand they're going to have to be careful about temperature with it. Which isn't a problem for most people keeping things indoors.
Yeah.
Moving on from that, the ABS used to be very popular for the stronger material. Less so these days with the introduction of PETG. I think PETG has been catching on it over the past few years because ABS is just a little more finicky to print with, a little more difficult to work with. People still do it, but it's just less popular now that there's another option. It doesn't have as many of its downsides, which is primarily warping. When you print an object with ABS, it's always going to shrink a little bit as it cools down.
I remember that being a problem way early on when I wanted things printed. They would tell me you can't do it, even professional companies. Okay.
Yeah. And oddly, the shrinking doesn't occur uniform. You'll have more shrinkage in like the X, Y versus Z. So it's not... If you're making functional things, it isn't as simple to plan for that. So it's easier to work with something like PETG, which doesn't have as much of a shrinkage problem. It still shrinks a little bit, but not as much.
What if I don't want to buy a printer? I don't want to learn how to print, but I want to get something printed. Are there places I can like I can go put my JPEG online and they'll send me back a beautiful print. Is there something 3D print wise like that?
Yeah. There's a few options. If you don't mind doing a little bit of work yourself, but you don't want to spend money on a printer, you might consider going to a local makerspace. Many cities around the country, even small towns, have makerspaces these days. Almost all of them have 3D printers. That's pretty standard.
Okay.
They usually have a few different kinds. You can even use that as a way to try before you buy, so to speak. Try a few things and see what you like about the different ones that they have.
So you could download your Fusion software, make your CAD design, and take it there to print it out.
Most of those places are great and very helpful. Not all of them. I've been to some that are a mess. But, it's worth trying out, and you'll probably have great luck going to your local one. If you don't want to do that, and you just want to send it to somebody and have it done right, then there's two options. One is called 3D Hubs. 3D Hubs used to be a user network where they had several people, hundreds really, of people across the country that were using their own printers for you. It's basically a simple way to hook you up with a hobbyist or something like that. Or in some cases, professionals, if you're willing to pay their rates. Everyone set their own rate. You'd upload your model. People would kind of bid on it almost.
Okay.
Now, they changed that just in the last 6 months. Let's bring this up in case someone had looked at it before. When you come to it now, it's totally different. They got rid of that aspect of it. Now they have a facility they just built in Chicago last year. It's their headquarters in America, and everything's professionally printed now. Prices are a little higher, but also ease of the experience and the quality, everything went up. So I think it's worth the price hike myself. Now it's more of a service like you kind of hoped it was before. The other alternative is a European company that their name is escaping me at the moment. Shapeways, that's what it is.
Okay.
And Shapeways, they're based out of Europe, and they do pretty much what 3D Hubs does, where they 3D print everything professionally. but they do it. I think everything ships out of Europe. I'm pretty sure. I haven't done it in a little while, but 3D Hubs now can ship in America directly. And I think in a few other countries as well, like in Southeast Asia. But Shapeways, I've had a good experience with them, but they are expensive and they do ship from Europe.
Okay. Now, one last thing, since you talked earlier about you're upgrading some equipment, but where do you see 3D printing going? Are there new materials coming out? Are there new things you can't wait to get to or are waiting for?
Oh, absolutely. There's several different kinds of printers, new motion systems and things that people are working on to try to make it just more and more efficient, more and more user-friendly, less and less expensive. It's getting better all the time. I think it has definitely progressed slower than a lot of people thought. Mm-hmm. Around 2010, when those patents expired and it really took off, people were throwing around the microwave thing for a while. Yeah. Everyone's going to have one of these in their home, and in 5 years, we're going to change the world.
Yeah, I was waiting for you put the object in on the stand, and then it 3D prints you another one.
Yep, yep. Everyone's going to be 3D printing their dinner in the next 5 years, that kind of thing. But that hasn't happened, but it doesn't mean that 3D printing was a bust. It's a failure. There was a bubble, blah, 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 blah. It's just changed. It's a little different than what people thought it was going to be. I don't see it currently ever being the microwave exactly, but it definitely could be something like a plotter or a large format 2D printer, something that you don't necessarily have in your own home, but you would go to a place like FedEx Kinko's for, something like that. They're getting better and easier to use. The quality's getting higher. Prices are getting lower. And there's some interesting projects that people have done recently where you see where it could go for the future for making it easier to get products to customers. The first thing that comes to mind was actually just announced a couple weeks ago. The company Edelkrone that you're probably familiar with, they do camera sliders and equipment like that. They announced a line of products that are going to be 3D printed, where it's basically they're taking the design of products that they currently mill out of aluminum. But if these are designed for things that are lighter weight like DSLRs anyway, and they don't structurally necessarily need aluminum for all the parts, they are going to make a version of it where it's basically a kit. They just send you for an eighth of the price of the assembled product. They will send you just the custom metal parts, the parts that need to be made out of aluminum for accuracy or stability or whatever. Right. They'll send you a box of that stuff and let you download a model for the device itself, print that out of plastic, and then assemble it.
That's pretty cool.
It's neat.
Yeah. Interesting. I learned a lot today. I knew I would. So I think we'll close this off. This is the Lens Rentals podcast with Kris Steward talking about 3D printing. Thanks for listening to the Lens Rentals podcast. If you have any questions or comments, let us know at podcast@lensrentals.com. I'll leave with this quote by Ava DuVernay. If your dream only includes you, it's too small.